My name is Dena Weiss, and I'm so excited to be studying the second chapter of Makot together. This chapter explores the case of the Rotzeach Bishgaga, a person who has killed in a way that is deemed to be accidental. The Torah has a very special provision for this person. They are sequestered in an Ir Miklat, a city of refuge, where they can flee to in the event that a family member of the victim, the Goel Hadam, would seek revenge. This scenario is described 4 times in the Tanakh. First, in Shemot in Parashat Mishpatim. There, the context is the various interpersonal laws and prohibitions on violence. The other 3 times, in Sefer Bamidbar, Sefer Dvarim, and Sefer Yehoshua, the context is the conquest of the land of Canaan. In discussing the way that the land will be divided amongst the various tribes, we learn that one tribe, Shevet Levi, will not get a classical inheritance of a block of land. Rather, the Levites are allotted 48 cities to live in. 6 of these are going to be designated as Arei Miklat. Your first task as you delve into the material today with your chavruta is to look at the various passages in Tanakh which talk about these laws. Each of these sets of verses has a slightly different understanding of the law and a different emphasis. Your goal is to identify these differences, to get a sense of the different flavors, and to see what you make of them. The Talmud's goal, on the other hand, is to eliminate these distinctions, to conflate them in order to make a cohesive set of laws in the case of the manslaughter. One thing that you'll notice when looking at the Talmudic material is a very particular perspective on the Ir Miklat, which is not obvious from looking at the pesukim. The Talmud assumes that it is not only a place of refuge where one may go if they feel that their life is in danger, but it can also be seen as a consequence or maybe even a punishment that one receives for taking a life, albeit accidentally. The rabbis call this punishment galut, exile, and a person who is found guilty of manslaughter is sentenced to the Ir Miklat. They are sentenced to galut, to exile. Even if there is no Goel Hadam and no threat to the life of the killer, they are still required to go into the Ir Miklat. The rabbis also frame this exile as atonement for the loss of life that occurred at the hand of the Rotzeach Bishgaga. Now, once the rabbis cast going into the Ir Miklat as the punishment of galut, it becomes critical to determine which killings actually qualify as accidental, bishgaga. According to the rabbis, some killings do not quite meet the threshold of accidental. There's not enough culpability in these cases to sentence a person to exile. In this case, a person might be called anus. They might be called forced, and they are simply innocent, and they do not even have to go into exile. On the other hand, some killings might not be accidental enough. Though there may not be enough evidence for the death penalty, if there is too much culpability, too much room to say that this killing was due to something more than pure accident, then exile isn't really an appropriate consequence. You are too guilty for the atonement it proffers for it to be helpful, and perhaps even too guilty to be protected from the wrath of the Goel Hadam. As you go into the Talmudic material, one of the first things you'll be doing is learning how to identify this sweet spot of perfectly accidental. You need the right amount of culpability, guilty enough to be exiled, but not so guilty that you could be considered an actual murderer. And this is reflected in the character of the city. It is both a place that protects you and a place from which you actually cannot leave. Once you are there, you are committed to stay until the death of the Kohen Gadol. Before I free you up to meet your chavruta and explore these pesukim, I wanted to give you some guidance around how to best participate in this class, the first truly skills-based Talmud class we are offering through Project Zug. Much of this information can be found on the resource and information sheet that we have provided, but I wanted to make sure that you heard it from me. First, though Zug is an online platform, I highly recommend printing out the source sheets. They have been lovingly designed for you to print out and to write on, to fill in your translations as you go, and to fill out the charts that have been provided. If you would prefer to learn from the Tzurat Hadaf, the pages of the Gemara itself, that is also great, and it is a good challenge, highly encouraged, and we have the resources for you to do that as well. The source sheets have the full text of the Mishnah and the Gemara punctuated and formatted in a way to help you identify when the Gemara is quoting a pasuk or talmudic material, and it also highlights technical terms. Each source sheet also will come with a word bank to help you with your translation and a chart to fill out that will help you keep track of the argument and what the Gemara has said. There will also be guiding questions. And as far as these charts and guiding questions, no one is checking your work. The goal of these resources is to help you with your learning. If you find that the questions are helpful, great. If you find that you have the time to fill out the chart, you will see that your comprehension will be much deeper. But the main goal of you going through these sources is to make sure that you are translating closely and understanding to the best of your ability. You will also notice that the source sheets do not provide Rashi's commentary. You are more than welcome to avail yourself of Rashi, of course, by using the handouts that are the regular Vilna Shas pages of the Gemara. In my experience, when you are first starting on your Talmud journey, Rashi is only selectively helpful, and students often spend a lot of time deciphering Rashi only to find out that the Rashi did not help them understand at all. In order to save you this time, I have left the Rashi off the sheet. Also, in order to facilitate your learning and to save you time, all of the pesukim that are quoted in the Talmud will be available to you on the sheet. These verses will be accompanied by the Revised Standard Version translation, a highly regarded and very accurate Christian translation of the Bible. But remember, one of the goals of a good translation is to provide a smooth reading of the text, and rabbinic drashot often rely on the bumps and cracks in the text. If you are too wedded to the translation, you might actually miss what the rabbis are noticing and what they are turning into halachic and midrashic gold. In each class, I will be reading through the text that you have studied and translating for you word by word. I will not assume that you have understood everything perfectly in Chavruta. Talmud is a book that is designed to be learned with a teacher, with help. And the goal of each session is to get you to a clear understanding of the words and the argument, as well as some of what is happening beneath the surface, and also to learn a bit about how the Talmud Bavli works. You will get the most out of this class if you watch the video as soon as possible after you finish your Chavruta. The right time to refine your understanding of what you have learned is while the material is still fresh in your mind. I also highly recommend taking advantage of the fact that this class is pre-recorded, and you should replay anything that you are not quite sure you understand, anything that you feel you would benefit from hearing a second time. If you are taking this class primarily to improve your Talmud skills, I have one more recommendation for you. I recommend reviewing the sugya, the passage that we have covered 1 to 3 days after you watch the video. Nothing is better for improving your skills than forcing yourself to recall the information while you still can. And though your learning of the material initially, of course, is going to be with your Zug, with your Chavruta, I actually think that this review session will be most helpful to you if you do it on your own, so you can be sure that you understand and you're not relying on the understanding of your Chavruta. I am so excited and so honored to be accompanying you on this journey, and I'm looking forward to getting into the text with you in the next session.